We come up with the idea to get a badge, blue and red lights. We went and bought a Crown Vic. We went and got handcuffs. We went and got gun holsters.
When Steve Hircshauer wasn't running from police, he was impersonating them.
We began to set guys up. We would pull them over and we would handcuff them and we would take their drugs or their money. I didn't have no regard for the law. I just didn't have any type of morals at the time.
Steve's parents divorced when he was a small boy. After that, he lived with his mother, who was a Christian, but her influence was not enough to make him change his ways.
What I knew of God and what I knew of Jesus was because of my mom. My sisters and them would sit down and they'd watch 700 Club all the time, Pat Robinson. So we knew about God and we knew about Christ. I didn't have a reverence for him. I didn't have an awe for him. I didn't want to follow him.
Steve began drinking and smoking pot at a very young age.
We'd smoke in the morning before we went to school. It just escalated. I began to drink. I was numb through. I didn't care about anybody. I didn't care about myself. I used anybody that I could to where I could get high. It was all about me.
Steve sometimes stayed with his father, who was a corrections officer in Kentucky. While there, Steve would often visit the jails and prisons with his dad, but seeing the men behind bars did little to deter him.
We could see the prisoners, we could see how they lived, we could see the cells and things like that, and it never crossed my mind that I would ever end up there.
Steve quit school in 9th grade. The only job he could get was washing dishes, but he always found ways to make enough money to buy drugs.
I worked at a restaurant. I worked with some guys, and they was doing coke and crack, and I mean that's when my drug use really got bad.
He met Lisa, and they had 2 children. Steve sold drugs to help support them, but also to support his own habit.
I would lose weeks. I would wake up and think that, hey, it's only been 2 or 3 days, and now they're like, no, you've been gone for a week and a half. Once it took over my life, I couldn't hold down a job anymore.
They eventually split up, and he continued his criminal lifestyle. He began impersonating policemen in order to shake down drug dealers.
Everything that you see on cops, that's how we kind of portrayed it to be. And we would take their money and leave them out on the side of the road.
Steve later met Paula, who had been raised in church. She knew Steve was dealing drugs, but she saw something in him that others didn't.
I remember when we first kind of spent some time together, I had actually taken him, I was going to drop him off at home, and we ended up talking for like 2 or 3 hours that night. I remember looking at him and saying, "You must have sisters." And he said, "Yes, I have 3 sisters." And I said, "Well, I can tell." I said, "Because the way you talk to me, you're just very respectful in how you speak and how you act."
Steve and Paula continued dating. Steve tried to quit using drugs, but his past caught up with him, and soon he was facing a 20-year sentence on multiple charges. While awaiting his sentencing, he proposed to Paula. To his surprise, she said yes.
When I really knew he was going to be going away, that this was it, this is what he was facing, I just wanted him to know that someone was going to be there for him. My parents had been married for years, and I took marriage very seriously, and I knew at that point in my mind that if I committed to him, I was going to be committed to him.
Steve was given a 15-year sentence. While in prison, he began attending daily chapel services to get out of his cell. Hearing God's words started having an effect on Steve, as did a couple of older women who visited the prison every week.
These 2 ladies used to come, and they're called Miss Middleton and Miss Anderson was their names, and I really seen Christ in them. I seen their glow. I seen just that shine, that glow that you see other Christians have. I wanted to be more like that. If that's what a Christian was supposed to be, I wanted to be more like them.
Slowly, Steve's heart began to soften.
It showed me something different, and I knew the seeds that they was planting. I would begin to think on those things and ponder, get into the Bible and go to the scriptures they gave us. I think these 2 women were placed in my life at that time by God for me.
One night, Steve was reading his Bible in his cell.
God opened my eyes and he showed me my sin against him. He showed me who he was and how much I needed him. And that broke me. I fell on my knees and I asked him to come into my life and change me.
For over a decade, Steve shared his new faith in prison while Paula faithfully visited him. As he grew in his faith, so did she. He was released after serving 11 years and is now a free man. They're expecting their first child, and Steve continues to share Christ with inmates.
Through Christ and through his love and through his guidance, you know, you have hope for a future. He's everything to me. There's not a day that I could go by without him. I mean, he's my Redeemer. He has saved me from a life of sin. He saved me from hell. He has saved me from myself. He's my hero.